And I don't know what it was because I wasn't with her, but I saw the aftermath when she realized that there was no BlackBerry service in West Texas in the middle of this game ranch. She was without her BlackBerry for 4 days. That was the largest trauma she experienced, and we all tried to work her through it as best we could. We are good and dear friends, and she is an extraordinary professional and extraordinarily accomplished. And when she suggested that I come here and speak to all of you today, I jumped at the chance because I understand the significance of this group and Deb's involvement in it, and the significance of all of us working together as we move America and the world's economy forward over the course of the next decade. I also want to make one other note that one of the people who has helped me extraordinarily in my attempt to bring New Jersey's economy back is the person who has served as the chairman of my Gaming, Sports, and Entertainment Commission in New Jersey and brought an enormous amount of change to what were intractably difficult situations in the first 15 months that I've been in office. Mr. John Hanson is here. John, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your hard work for New Jersey. Deb went through some of the things that we've done in terms of trade early on in the Christie administration, and we recognize that if we want to grow and expand our economy, trade is the way that we're going to do it. One of the things she did not mention, which I think is one of the more key things that we've been able to accomplish that all of you will understand, is that New Jersey, having one of the top 3 most active ports here in the U.S., the port of Newark and Elizabeth, with the new advent of the opening of the new Panama Canal and the new super ships that will be coming through there beginning in 2014, we had a problem here in New Jersey. The Bayonne Bridge, which stands between our port and the Atlantic Ocean, was too low for these ships to get under. And for years we've known this was coming, and administration after administration has ignored this problem. We have now secured in our first 15 months in office a $1 billion commitment from the Port Authority, and it's going to be an extraordinary project. You're going to actually watch as we raise the Bayonne Bridge. The Bayonne Bridge is a national historic structure, which led to all kinds of problems in terms of what our options were for fixing the problem. And we are now going to actually raise the bridge from where it is now in order to provide the clearance for those ships. What it will do, besides being an extraordinary engineering project, it will also allow for this port in New Jersey to keep its preeminent place in trade and all the jobs that flow from trade here in New Jersey. And so that project is going to begin very soon, and we're happy to get it done and to be able to keep trade going in a positive direction for New Jersey. The problems, though, that we confront in New Jersey, trade is really not one of the biggest ones. The largest one is the one that Deb alluded to, and every American state just about is confronting the same thing. And that is the issue of fiscal responsibility, debt, deficits, and taxation. And the problem for our state is that we've had a decade of extraordinary irresponsibility. Let me detail it for you quickly. In the last 8 years before I became governor, New Jersey raised taxes and fees on its citizens 115 times in 8 years, resulting in the 3rd highest income tax in America, the 5th highest sales tax in America, the highest property taxes in America, and the 6th highest corporate taxes in America. Combining this cocktail together, for the 3 years before I became governor, New Jersey was ranked 50th in America in tax friendliness to business. This is not exactly the ad you want to take out in the Wall Street Journal. And so when you're trying to solve a fiscal crisis that then comes upon you, to me, pretty clearly, taxation is out of the picture as one of the ways to solve a budget deficit. The citizens of the state of New Jersey had already given it the office, so to speak. And so we needed to do something else. And what we needed to do was get the 2 other problems that led to New Jersey's downfall as an economic power in this country and get those under control: spending and debt. Now, New Jersey's spending had gone up. In the 20 years before I became governor, spending at the state level had gone up 322%. So you quickly do that math in your head. It's over 16% a year, every year, in the 20 years before I became governor. That is simply unsustainable spending growth for any governmental jurisdiction. And New Jersey during those years, for most of them, had a wildly successful and growing economy. But New Jersey also stands as the example that you can kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And New Jersey policy on spending and taxation did exactly that. And so when I came into office, imagine this, in my third week in transition, my chief of staff designate came to me and told me that they had done a cash flow projection, and that if I didn't come in and make some immediate changes to the projected spending under the budget that we were in the middle of, that the state of New Jersey would not have the money to make payroll in the second pay period in March. A state not making its own payroll. That was the level of problem we had. So we immediately came in and we impounded $2.2 billion in spending that was projected to already happen with only 5 months left in the fiscal year. This didn't make you or me enormously happy, but it was something that we had to do in order to balance the books between there and the end of the year. We then turned to the fiscal year we're currently in, and we had an $11 billion deficit on a $29 billion budget. A 37% deficit, by percentage, the largest deficit of any state in America. And at this point, as you can imagine, I deal with a Democratic state legislature. I'm a Republican governor. So it leads to some very interesting interactions. And the Democrats were thrilled at this point. They thought we've got him exactly where we want him, and he's going to have to raise taxes. There's no way he's going to have the guts to make the cuts that you'd have to make in order to close this budget gap. And so we proposed a budget with no tax increases and no new taxes that closed that $11 billion budget gap. This gave the Democrats great dismay. And so what they decided to do instead was to pass an income tax increase anyway. Now, I told them that if they did that, I was going to veto it. And they told me there would be no budget without an income tax increase, that they would close down the government. Now, the Democrats in New Jersey had done this once before with their own governor, Governor Corzine. They had closed the government in 2006 based on an argument they were having on how much to raise taxes, not whether to, but how much to raise taxes. And at that time, Governor Corzine had the government closed down. And for some of you who live in this area, you may recall that very famously, Governor Corzine moved a cot into the governor's office. And he called the press in and he said, I will be sitting here, on this cot for as long as it takes. I will not go home to settle this crisis. I'll sleep right here on this cot. The crisis eventually got resolved. Taxes went up. So I knew I was dealing with the same folks, basically. So when they made that threat, I called them into my office. I said, listen, I want you to understand something. You can pass that tax if you want, and I'm not going to sign it. And if you want to close the government, you can. But one thing I want to guarantee you for sure is I'm not moving any damn cot into this office. So if you close the government, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get in those black SUVs, and I'm going to go to the governor's residence. I'm going to walk upstairs. I'm going to order a pizza. I'm going to open a beer, and I'm going to watch the Mets. And I'll keep watching the Mets until you decide to reopen the government again. Now, for any of you who are baseball fans in this room, you know that that means I was willing to make a great sacrifice. Because watching the Mets is no fun. And the conclusion of that was they passed their tax increase, I vetoed it. They tried to override it, they could not. And then my budget was passed with 99.8% of the line items exactly as I had submitted them in March, and we signed it 2 days early in June and closed the record budget deficit and set out a blueprint for states all across the country to find their way out of the fiscal mess that we're in. We did that, by the way, while also cutting $90 million in corporate business taxes in that budget as a good faith down payment to the business community to let them know we knew we had done badly on taxes and we needed to get better.